name is Dave Choffness. I'm an assistant professor at Northeastern University. Um, my project is called Recon. It's about revealing and controlling personal information leaks from mobile devices. And the way that we do it is we look at the network traffic that mobile devices generate, because if personal information is leaked from a device, it's going to be leaked over the network. So what we do, instead of asking users to tell us what their personal information is, we infer it. So we train a machine learning classifier, and it essentially reliably guesses when user information is being leaked, and then we show that to users, allow them to get a better understanding of how their personal information is shared with other parties, and allow them to control it. So for example, they can block it, they could replace it with something else, they could take their fine-grained GPS locations and coarsen them, and they can make themselves look like somebody else if they want to. Transparency is pretty important because with the amount of information that's being gathered from individuals, right now it's not so much that people don't care about what's being gathered, it's that they don't know what's being gathered. Today we might have interfaces that tell us, for example, via privacy policies or via pop-ups, hey, can I collect this information? Or my privacy policy says that I will be able to collect all this information from you, but users in general don't know what's actually collected and what are the implications of it. So what transparency does is it allows users to see what's happening and then be able to make informed decisions about what they want to do about their privacy going forward. Conference is incredibly important to bring researchers, policymakers, and industry together in one place to discuss these incredibly important issues about privacy, data collection, and transparency. Without a dialogue, I don't think that there's a way forward. So once again, I think this has been a productive event, and I'm looking forward to more like it in the future. So I guess I'll answer that in terms of where I'd like personal data transparency to be in the future. Whether it'll happen is a whole other story. I think that we are increasingly going to face challenges making data collection transparent, because I think that there's sort of unending variety of types of information that other parties can learn from individuals. Today we focus on looking at text, like your name, your zip code, your GPS location. In the future, it may be your living pattern. So, where do you work? Where do you live? When are you at home? When do you take a shower? What temperature do you like your house to be at? So as we move increasingly from devices in our pockets and purses that monitor us to every device that surrounds us, monitoring us in some way, it gets to become harder and harder to make all this information transparent to users. That's not to say that there's no hope. I think that the systems that we develop to provide transparency are just going to have to be more sophisticated, more distributed. I think that the industry that develops these devices and uses them to collect data needs to participate in improving transparency. This is not going to happen unilaterally just from the researchers or policymakers. So I think the future is complicated, but there's a path to being able to continue to provide transparency going forward. Well, I love the DTL. They've been very generous in supporting the Recon project, which would have had trouble getting off the ground without the grant money that they provided. Daniel has also been great at providing resources so that we can advertise the project, provide more interesting visualizations, engage better with our users. And going forward, I'm optimistic that DTL will be a place where researchers can rely on for operational support. So the tools that we build are things that users can rely on at large scale, that there's data available for researchers to play with, and that they can essentially enable the next generation of research on privacy and transparency. Yeah, so this relates to what I said before. I think that increasingly we are going to be monitored all the time, and not just from the devices that we control, from devices we don't as well. So I think in that environment, the challenge is that how do you do monitoring? How do you do auditing? How do you provide a way for users to regain some privacy when, for example, there's a video surveillance camera, or there's a device that listens for commands? How are users going to know that those devices aren't recording when the user doesn't want them to? How do we know that they aren't transmitting information over the network in ways that are properly secure? So these challenges are going to be very difficult to address. They're going to require buy-in from all parties involved. But I think that should be the next focus going forward. In 5 years' time, we will look back at web tracking and mobile device tracking as really benign compared to the kinds of very detailed tracking that will occur in our daily lives. There's just going to be increasingly devices that are able to capture sort of our every move, and all of that kind of information could be used to infer lots of rich information about users. So I think in terms of transparency going forward, I think it will be there will be a challenge to try to aggregate all of this information in a way that users can understand and in a way that they can control. And I think that's the biggest challenge will be, how do we deal with the vast volumes of information that are being gathered, and how do we rein them in if users want to do so.